Expedia and Visit Scotland invite you to come experience the beauty that awaits in Scotland. The sweep of wild coastlines, quiet lochs, and untamed landscapes. Fresh cuisine that feels rooted in the land. Come experience the kind of stillness that stays with you long after you leave. Plan your Scottish escape today at expedia.com/Visit Scotland.
LinkedIn is great at connecting you with the world's largest professional network. But it can't connect you with motivation on a Monday morning. LinkedIn can help you get insights from your professional community. But it can't give you any insight into why Dave's still talking on mute. And while it can't stop your boss from bringing tuna for lunch, LinkedIn can help bring your career to the next level. LinkedIn is the network that works for you. Visit LinkedIn.com to learn more.
I want to say this to the listeners. It's fatigue is reversible. Your mitochondria can learn to be healthy again. Your mitochondria are built for you to serve you, and they're going to get better. It's just a matter of time, putting in the reps, so to speak. Like if you go to the gym or do exercise, think about putting in the reps. You're putting in these practices day after day. It's not going to be a miracle thing where it's going to be all of a sudden you're going to have so much energy. But if you do these practices daily and consistently and faithfully, you will get better and you will overcome that fatigue.
Hey everyone, this is Jonathan Marks from GoToHealth. I hope you're having a wonderful day, especially as we prepare for the holidays. You know, this time of year, we have a lot of exhaustion, but exhaustion can be chronic. And I wanted to talk about this today because exhaustion can be really, truly debilitating. And the question is, how do we get out of it? We're so much into the daily functioning of our lives. Do we ever really have time to rest or take care of ourselves? We're going to be talking about that today, the causes of different kinds of stress and exhaustion and how we can get back from that. Our guest today is Andrew Wong, MD. He's a functional and integrative medicine physician who believes true healing begins with presence, purpose, and listening. He's passionate about finding what's really going on beneath the surface and guiding people back to health with compassion, curiosity, and care. He's the principal of Capital Integrative Health. That's in the Washington, D.C. area, but he sees patients virtually. So don't feel afraid to see him if you need to. You can go to his website at cihealth.org. Again, that's cihealth.org. And one request before we get to Dr. Wong, if you're liking our show, please give us a 5-star review or thumbs up on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube, or wherever you're listening to us. It really helps us get the word out to more people. Thanks so much in advance. So welcome to the show, Andrew Wong. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, Jonathan.
Good. My pleasure. So tell us, fatigue seems to be in an all-time high. From your clinical perspective, why are so many people so tired today?
Honestly, Jonathan, that's the number one reason why we see people in the clinic. I actually don't know many people that aren't fatigued. I think that the number one reason why people are fatigued nowadays is because we're in a go culture and society, and we don't spend enough time recovering. It may be that we know how to recover in terms of our body knows, but we've kind of lost that innate wisdom.
And so what are the recommendations that I know everybody's individual, but is there a generalization of what you recommend for people when they're just burned out?
Yeah, I think number one is kind of looking at the situation of, do people have too much on their plate? Whether it's too many activities, too many errands, too many things to do, even too many healthy items on the checklist. Like I must meditate for an hour. I must, eat 3 salads a day, that kind of thing, as opposed to let's just do one thing, get that quick win.
Yes.
And sometimes it is about just resting the body, letting the body recover, really emphasizing sleep, I think is a big one. For most people, if I have to say that one thing to help people recover their energy and to, beat fatigue or to overcome fatigue, it's getting enough rest at night. And if, a lot of people work at night, they're night shift workers or different people, then in that case, you might take a daytime nap, but you gotta recover.
Got it. Let's talk a little bit about chronic fatigue. How is that defined? How do you know when you have it, or how do you know when a patient has chronic fatigue? And what are the most common root causes that go beyond just being stressed?
Most people, Jonathan, Most societies are describing this as fatigue for at least 3 months. Some societies say 6 months of, most days out of the week, let's say, their energy is at a level that affects their functioning. So we can't say that someone's fatigued and then they're hiking in the mountains, for 12 miles. That's not
Yes.
really fatigue. They might be tired because their muscles are tired because of the athletics, but they're not necessarily fatigued. But, it is somewhat subjective, but I would say in general, if someone is not functioning the way that they would like to function, and that's really significantly impacting their life in general, their work, their functionality, that's chronic fatigue. Why are people fatigued, other than just quote unquote stress? There are many, many reasons, and that's kind of what we get into in terms of functional medicine, which is kind of root cause medicine that I practice and we do at our clinic. But it does start often with the gut microbiome, and having gut inflammation may predispose someone to not absorbing the nutrients that you need to power the batteries, which are called mitochondria inside the cells, to produce that energy to avoid that fatigue. So besides lack of recovery, we're talking about lack of nutrient absorption. We're also talking about things like, just go on the nutrients a little bit more, B12 deficiency, vitamin D deficiency, iron being low, like all these things can be an issue. Oxygen is another one that is not a vitamin, but it's another quote unquote nutrient for the body. We need enough oxygen. So people are indoors so much now and they're not getting as much oxygen as being outside, but also people have conditions like obstructive sleep apnea, which at night can impair the body's ability to get enough oxygen for up to 8 hours or more. If they're in bed for 8 hours, they're going to be draining their energy too. Besides that, we think about a lot of gut infections, parasites, H. pylori, things like that, chronic infections like Lyme, another virus called Epstein-Barr virus. So these are things that can silently drain the body of energy because the immune system is trying to fight off those infections and doesn't really know that that's happening. A lot of times, even when they go to doctors, regular doctors, they'll do the testing. They won't necessarily find them because a lot of traditional tests don't detect those infections. Hormone imbalance is another one. There's actually a lot of studies that show that testosterone, estrogen, DHEA, all these hormones are needed for your body to produce energy, or it helps your mitochondria make energy. Thyroid hormone is another one. So a lot of people have undiagnosed low thyroid or low sex hormones, low DHEA, and a lot of this is from it. Stress can actually cause some of this in terms of adrenal imbalance where the
Hmm.
DHEA is low, but kind of natural aging processes of menopause and andropause, respectively, will cause a depletion of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, DHEA, and that will also cause fatigue just because those hormones are really necessary for the body to make energy.
So, Andrew, I have three questions from what you said. First of all, tell us, what is functional medicine? I've heard that term. I really don't understand it. What is functional medicine?
So pretend that you went to the car shop and your car had a light that was blinking. Now, in a traditional kind of car shop or traditional medicine, you might say, "Oh, the light is blinking. Let's put a piece of tape over it so that we don't see the light." Kind
Mhm.
of this symptom control without actual long-term resolution. The functional medicine is looking at why that light is blinking in terms of the body dysfunction, whether it's a gut issue, a hormone issue, a brain issue, energy issue, or an immune issue. Why is that light blinking? Why is that body, dysfunctional? Why do you have certain symptoms? So it's going to look at the underlying root cause or causes of why that person is a bit imbalanced and looking to restore function from the inside out.
Got it. Okay. So you're really looking at the whole system in working with people.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. And tell us, you mentioned Lyme disease before. I've heard such debate about Lyme disease. Is Lyme disease real or not? I've heard lots of debate about whether it really exists.
Yes, it was discovered many decades ago by Alan Steer, who is a doctor in Connecticut, but this is thought to be very controversial in terms of chronic Lyme or persistent Lyme. Is it really a real thing or is it in someone's head? Now the government has come out with a statement to say that their chronic infections, including tick-borne infections, are actually real, and there's some evidence for that. What happens in Lyme is there's two major forms of Lyme. One is a more active form that kind of looks like rotini pasta in a way,
Hmm.
like very squiggly.
Yes.
And then another kind is called a cell wall deficient or persistent form that looks, you think of it more like a turtle shell a little bit, so it's a bit more harder to penetrate. So a lot of times Lyme will shapeshift into the the more persistent form. So antibiotics that might get the more active form might not get the persistent form unless you know to also treat the persistent cells.
Hmm.
So a lot of times for that reason, Lyme can persist in the body and cause chronic inflammation and fatigue. And unfortunately, most doctors don't know about this because the tests that are conventionally used to check Lyme won't detect it more than 50% of the time. So if you had a test that only detected something half the time, the other half people get called crazy, but they actually have some sort of chronic infection going on.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Now, you said one other thing that I wanted to ask about mitochondria. You work a lot with mitochondrial health. What are mitochondria and why are they so central to the energy conversation?
So billions of years ago, at somewhere on the earth in an algae pond, there's
Okay.
two organisms fused together, and the smaller organism fused into the bigger one. The smaller organism then evolved into what is known as an organelle, a type of part of the cell, in this case, a mitochondria, that then basically powered the cell to make energy. So that mitochondria used to be some organism, and then that organism basically kind of got evolved into a cellular organism and eventually, became humans, for instance. So these mitochondria basically are the backbone of the cell, the powerhouse of the cell. Without mitochondria, there's no life. Without energy, there's no life, right? Just like without energy, your car doesn't run, trains don't run, and all that stuff. So we really have to have the mitochondria, and the health of the cell and the health of the body is determined by the health of the mitochondria.
Got it. And so, how do you work with the mitochondria, or how do you know that the mitochondria are not functioning properly? And if they're not, how do you help a patient with that to improve the situation?
So we're recording this time around the holidays, so happy holidays, everyone. But
Thank
as a
you.
result, I'm going to make a energy cake analogy. So pretend that you have a cake and it has different ingredients, and you have to have all those ingredients, baking ingredients, to make that cake taste delicious. So your mitochondria need a lot of baking ingredients to produce energy. In other words, we can take one or two of those ingredients and give them to the mitochondria, but if they don't have all those ingredients, the system won't proceed through the final process, to make that ATP or to make that energy.
Right.
So to give you an analogy of this, we're going to look at a couple buckets of, energy ingredients for this energy recipe. One is vitamins. So vitamins with things like B vitamins, especially B12, but also other B vitamins, B3, B2. We can also look at magnesium as a big factor in activating
Mm-hmm.
the ATP. We can look at iron. We can look at zinc. We can look at omega-3 fatty acids to help. So all these things really help, but also from the macronutrient side, in terms of proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Although carbohydrates are helpful for energy, it's really the fats and the proteins that drive the mitochondrial functioning. And then in terms of non-nutrients, we're thinking about, again, making sure that person's getting adequate, or the mitochondria is getting adequate oxygen,
Mm-hmm.
breathing deeply, making sure they don't have sleep apnea, which is like a blocked airway essentially at night,
Mm-hmm.
making sure that we get enough light. We actually need light to activate one of the enzymes in the mitochondria called the cytochrome C oxidase, which is in complex 4 of the mitochondria, which basically means one part of the mitochondrial chain that makes the energy. You need light for that. You also need chlorophyll, which is going to be found in dark leafy green vegetables. So you need vitamins, you need healthy foods, you need also the light, the natural light. You
Yeah, I
also
wanted to clarify that when you say light, are you talking about sunlight or are you talking about light from indoors? What are you talking about here when you mean light?
Sunlight, so either sunlight or a specific spectrum of the full spectrum light, especially red light. I know a lot of
Got
people
it.
know about red light therapy now. Red light's pretty hot. We have red
Yes.
light in our clinic, but red light actually helps activate the mitochondria. There's certain wavelengths activate the mitochondria more than others.
Okay.
But it is getting outside. Indoor light is considered actually like fluorescent light, unfortunately, is considered mitochondrial draining. So if
Mm,
you're sitting in an office, you're sitting in a house all day, trying to keep warm in the winter, yes, good, but make sure you get some full spectrum light or at least red light because your mitochondria are going to like the full spectrum light, not the fluorescent light.
good. I want to talk about your practice, doctor. It's Capital Integrative Health. First of all, where are you located and do you see people virtually?
Yeah, so Capital Integrative Health, we're located outside the nation's capital, about 30 minutes outside of DC in Potomac, Maryland. And we do see patients virtually. I have about right now 35 licenses or so, full licenses where I practice telehealth. including a lot of the big states, Florida, California, Texas, etc., and
Right.
of course the Maryland, DC, and Virginia state. So we definitely we know telehealth is the wave of the future, and we see people in person, we see people in telehealth, and we see all ages. So definitely happy to see if anyone's listening that wants to kind of more help and a deep dive into their energy issues or other health issues in a natural, holistic, integrative way. That's who we are.
Good. And let me give people the website where they can go to learn more. It's cihealth.org. That's the letter C, the letter I, and then health, cihealth.org. So, doctor, what advanced therapies or testing do you use at Capital Integrative Health to help people understand why their energy is low?
So, Jonathan, thank you. We'll start with the testing and then we'll go to therapies. I think testing, you do advanced blood work and look at vitamin levels, hormone levels, a lot of a deep dive into why someone might be feeling low. We can also look at intracellular nutrient testing. So that's a blood test that's specialized that looks at if the vitamin is not getting inside the cell, then it's actually not activating the cell nucleus to make that energy, so that to activate the mitochondria. So that's a test called the Vibrant Micronutrient Test. We look at gut microbiome testing because we know that gut absorption is really helpful for nutrient absorption for that energy.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'll look at hormone balance and hormone detox. And we even do have tests that look at chronic infections like Lyme, Epstein-Barr, even mycotoxin testing, which is mold toxin testing, which we didn't talk about yet, but mold can actually be another hidden cause of inflammation. And overall, I should say one thing is that inflammation does drain energy. So if someone has chronic inflammation, whether it's from mold toxins, chronic infections, gut issues, but even people with heart disease, sleep apnea, brain dysfunction, all these conditions are mitochondrial dysfunction, and they're going to drain energy and cause fatigue.
Got it. Now, you've created something called the Energy Restoration Program. What is that, and how does it guide people back to sustainable energy for themselves?
Thank you, Jonathan. So it's a structured physician-led program. It's a year long. We have quarterly check-ins with the physician. We have more check-ins with a nutritionist or health coach. We also do IV therapy. We do a lot of IV nutrient therapy here in our clinic for energy. Our nurses are wonderful, very caring, and that really accelerates healing, gets those nutrients right in. And we're going to take a deep dive into that person's health in terms of lab testing and advanced therapies to get them where they want to go faster, quicker, and smoothly.
Good. Now, for somebody who's listening today, who's overwhelmed or exhausted, give me 3 simple daily practices they can start today to feel better.
I think number one, Jonathan, recovery, seeing a place in their day, whether it's at the beginning of the day before the day gets too crazy, at the middle of the day with a lunch break, or at the end of the day. At some point, take a 5-minute break, even if you can only make 5 minutes, to really recover and rest, even if you're just laying on the floor, laying on the table. Take 5 minutes to close your eyes, maybe take out a nature walk. It's really, really important to give your body some recovery time and to send a message to your body that it's safe, it's secure, you're caring for it. I think it's really important to just send that message. And the only way to do that is self-care, really.
Good.
So that's number one. Number two, if you have enough energy for this, and even if you have only a little bit of energy, move your body, because ironically, moving the body and exercising and just kind of getting more active, that actually is going to generate more mitochondrial function and activate that mitochondria. So increasing your circulation, increasing your mitochondrial efficiency. It could be as simple as, we've heard this before, but parking farther from the grocery store or something, taking the stairs instead of the elevator, walking around the block one time, even if it's just that and you're really tired and you can only do that. And even if you can only do like getting up off the couch, doing a couple of jumping jacks, 10 jumping jacks, just do little things like that. Studies have actually shown that 2 to 3 minutes of exercise, as little as 2 to 3 minutes, can activate energy.
I can do that, but I know everybody listening can do that.
That's right.
So 2 to 3 minutes of exercise, folks. That's a huge recommendation. And what's the third one, Andrew?
The third one, I know this is the holidays, but I have to say that we have to watch our alcohol and sugar intake. Alcohol and sugar are energy drainers. We talked about a lot of things that would improve energy.
Yes.
But sometimes if we do all these things that improve energy and then we take things that will drain energy, it becomes a net neutral, right? It just basically, it kind of balances out. So ideally 2 drinks a week or less would be ideal. That's a lot different than when I was in school,
Sure.
when I think it was a lot more. And then sugar, ideally 25 grams of sugar or less is considered, relatively moderate, which is not a lot. One piece of candy is probably 10 grams of sugar right there. A soda is probably 50 grams, already double the daily recommended value of sugar. So I know it's the
Wow.
holidays, everyone to enjoy themselves, but in terms of, unless it's a special occasion, something to think about. And because a lot of sugar is added to food, right? That we know, and we don't necessarily know what's even in there. It's just for it to taste good. But I think that's a big one. I will say one other thing, if that's okay, is I think love and gratitude and just gratitude journaling is a really nice way
Mm.
to up level energy. Three things that you're grateful for every morning. That's something I do.
Nice, nice. Three things that you're grateful for every morning. And that helps with your energy, you're saying.
It does. It's almost as good as coffee. Coffee's a little better, but I think they're both good.
Good, great. So, Andrew, is there any question that I haven't asked that I should have, or what kind of big message would you like to leave with people today?
But thank you, Jonathan. I want to say this to the listeners. It's fatigue is reversible. Your mitochondria can learn to be healthy again. Your mitochondria are built for you to serve you, and they're gonna get better. It's just a matter of time, putting in the reps, so to speak. Like if you go to the gym or do exercise, think about putting in the reps. You're putting in these practices day after day. It's not going to be a miracle thing where it's going to be all of a sudden you're going to have so much energy. But
Yeah,
if you do these practices daily and consistently and faithfully, you will get better and you will overcome that fatigue.
good. It's been great being with you today, Andrew. Thanks so much for coming on the show and sharing your information with us.
Awesome being with you, Jonathan. Thank you so much for having me.
Good. We've been talking with Andrew Wong, MD. He's a functional and integrative medicine physician who believes true healing begins with presence, purpose, and listening. As you can hear from the interview, he listens very well. He's passionate about finding out what's really going on beneath the surface and guiding people back to health with compassion, curiosity, and care. He partners with patients to uncover root causes, create meaningful plans, and support healing through nutrition, movement, mindfulness, and connection. You can visit his website at cihealth.org. That's Capital Integrative Health. They're in the Washington, D.C. area, but he does see patients around the country virtually because he's a modern type of guy. Thanks for being with us, Andrew. It's been great to have you with us, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you. Thank you, Jonathan.
Good. Remember, everybody, have a wonderful holiday. We hope you have a safe holiday. Stay healthy. This has been Jonathan Marks with GoToHealth. And as we say at the end of every show, go to health. God bless. Thank you for tuning in today to Go to Health. You are one of almost 10,000 people per day who enjoy the evidence-based health information offered by our guest health experts. You can watch us on our website and YouTube and listen to us on 8 podcast networks. Be sure to join Jonathan Marks in our upcoming shows each week. If you like our show, please share this episode with your friends and colleagues. You can subscribe to the show, join our email list, send us feedback, browse through the online store, and view our library of over 150 shows at GoToHealthMedia.com. See you next time, and remember to elevate your life with Go to Health.